Number 10. Sapphire Styx. Sapphire Styx was a mutant villain powerful enough to turn Wolverine unconscious with her life-threatening powers. Her abilities allow her to steal the energy and life force of those she makes physical contact with, typically through kissing them. Kind of like Rogue, but without the power and memory absorption, and if she leaned into the harmful elements of her powers a little more. Sapphire did just that, and it is implied that she has been able to stay healthy and young for hundreds of years using her mutant ability. I love when we have like mutant vampirism. I love those powers. It's also believed she is powerful enough that she could use her mutant ability to kill her victims depending on her target's power level and resistance, of course. In the end, she was defeated and killed by Psylocke, who used her powers to avenge all the souls that Sapphire had ever drained, shattering her. Psylocke then used Sapphire's soul energy to rebuild her own body, becoming Betsy once more. Number 9. Knockout. Knockout has only made a few appearances in the comics since her first appearance in the 90s, but she is still a pretty deadly female villain and is super badass. She has worked within both the villainous supergroup of the Femizons and the Femme Fatales. More recently, she was seen once again fighting alongside the Femme Fatales. Knockout is a mutant whose powers are enhanced strength, endurance, and durability. She's a skilled enough fighter that she was able to make quick work of mutant Rogue when she faced her briefly in Hunt for Wolverine, Mystery in Madripoor. Number 8. Lady Mastermind. We could talk about both for this point, but I've decided to focus on Reagan Wingard, who popped up in Dawn of X, as opposed to Martinique, who is also the daughter of Jason Wingard, aka Mastermind. Mastermind OG. Even when it seems like Reagan has not been strong enough when it comes to her mutant powers to achieve the desired effect on her victims, she has proven skilled and resourceful enough to find a way to push through any mental blocks or willpower that those she targets possess. Her mutant powers allow her to create realistic illusions that in fact can even trick your body into responding to them as if they were real, meaning that her illusions can actually kill you. Yikes. Unlike her father, her powers also do not require her full and devout concentration to work. Lady Mastermind's illusions will persevere even if she goes unconscious, which is pretty powerful. She's basically like way more powerful than her dad. And before we move on to our next spot, time for the most YouTube of moments where I ask you to kindly click that like. Pretty please? Number 7. Yelena Belova. Yelena Belova has always been the rival to Black Widow since way back when she was training in the Red Room Academy. She always aimed to be the best of the best and was driven crazy by her obsession to become the best operative out there. Belova at one point had her face swapped with Natasha's against her will, so that Nat could prove a point to her, basically that being a spy wasn't that great, to help convince her to come over to the good side of things, sort of. Belova will likely play a much less villainous role in the MCU, but in comics she has often been known as an antagonist to Black Widow. And she also has been Black Widow before. Although she is usually manipulated into being a villain, and the most evil thing about her is generally her competitiveness with Natasha, which we've already seen will be addressed in the Black Widow film, just based on the trailer. Belova has also acted as an ally to Natasha on occasion as well, despite the fact that she has lots of reasons to hate her. So yeah, it depends on what you're reading. She can be a villain, she can sort of be not really a hero, but an ally. She can be a hero in her own way. Number 6. Lady Bullseye. Maki Matsumoto is known for being one of the fastest fighters around. She is both believed to be faster than the Kingpin and Bullseye, who inspired her to become a killer under the same mantle, and Bullseye, who in fact inspired her to become a killer under that same mantle. She was saved by Bullseye when she was a little girl, who the Yakuza intended to sell for their own means. Bullseye, however, was tasked with wiping out those who would be responsible for her and many other victims' sale, and killed them before they could do so. Lady Bullseye is a skilled fighter, trained in wielding many different types of weapons, and proficient in many different kinds of martial arts. Oh, she also is apparently a lawyer, or at least understands law well enough to pose as one. She's both worked with Kingpin and successfully defeated him in combat, which I think is pretty impressive. Kingpin is not an easy person to defeat in a fight. Number 5. Kandra. Kandra is part of the Externals, and as such has spent a good amount of her comic book history being a pretty powerful villain. The Externals are immortals who can't be killed, except on the rare occasion when they can, because comics. And because I mean, hey, every character has to have a weakness. For Externals, they can be killed by having another external kill them if their hearts are consumed by said foe. Canberra is an immensely powerful telekinetic who also possesses some telepathic abilities, but she is also just deadly because of how ruthless she is and because of all of her connections, because she's so old. She not only is powerful in her own right, but also holds sway over other powerful mutants and allies. By the way, externals are different from eternals, in case you were wondering, though both are godlike but in different ways. And both are from Marvel, which is confusing. But yeah, externals, eternals. Number 4. Veranki. Queen Veranki is the main antagonist of the Secret Invasion storyline. Disguised as Spider-Woman, she, along with many of her undercover Skrulls, managed to infiltrate and, in secret, invade Earth. Hence the name of the story, Secret Invasion. Veranki is less about killing and more about conquering, but usually when it comes to conquering a planet, you're probably gonna have to break a few eggs. And when I say break a few eggs, I mean kill a few humans. As a Skrull, Veranki is capable of shapeshifting. She also can employ a special Skrull ritual in order to grant herself the memories and powers of those she is impersonating. And of course, as a queen, she also has armies at her beck and call. Or she did, until she was ultimately defeated and killed by one of the most evil characters in Marvel Comics and one of the most deadliest male villains, Norman Osborn. Also, where's my deadly male villain list? Number 3. Madeline Pryor. Also known as the Goblin Queen. Madeline Pryor was a pilot in Alaska who won Scott Summers' heart in part because, well, she looked exactly like his thought dead ex-teammate and lover, Jean Grey. Nothing gets someone going like being like, wait, you look like someone that just died that I was in love with. Oh, I'm so into this. I'd be like, I'm so traumatized by you, I definitely don't want to be around you. But hey, to each their own. It was later revealed to comic readers and Maddie herself after she married Scott and had a child with him that she was in fact Jean's clone, created using a piece of the Phoenix Force by Mr. Sinister, as part of a plot to create the perfect mutant, her son, baby Christopher, who'd grow up to become Nathan Summers, aka Cable. Mr. Sinister intended to steal the baby for himself and then destroy Maddie, having no further need for her. That's so rude. When she discovered she was Jean's clone and that Sinister was her creator, she ended up suffering from a mental break that in essence turned her evil. She made a pact with a demon and planned on sacrificing her son and other children in order to gain power, but ended up being stopped by the X-Factor and the X-Men teams. She has been thought dead, and actually dead, a few times in the comics, and made a recent return in 2020's Hellion series. And then we all realized, oh yeah, we totally forgot that Madeline Pryor is still alive and has been for a while. I'm sorry. I feel bad for her. She returned as a villain once more, and after her return was shortly thereafter defeated and is now presumed dead. But only time will tell if that remains true. Number 2. Harpy. And more specifically, Red Harpy, as you may have noticed from our thumbnail for this video. Harpy is basically the evil version of Betty Ross, Bruce Banner's love interest and ex-wife. Harpy came into being when MODOK used gamma radiation to transform her into a winged monster, who would make a pretty fitting opponent for the Hulk. Her exposure to gamma radiation not only made her the amazingly strong green monster known as the Harpy, but also drove Betty insane, making it easy for MODOK to manipulate her and use her to do his bidding. After becoming Red She-Hulk, we'd later also see an even more horrific version of Harpy when Betty returned as the immortal Red Harpy. Harpy in general is considered to be one of the strongest villains around and is strong enough to take on the Hulk face to face in a fight. One-on-one. She can also heal, fly, and possesses razor-sharp claws and talons. Number 1. Saturnine. That's Magistrix Opal Luna Saturnine to you. Also known as the White Witch, Saturnine is likely one of the most deadly villains on this list, considering just how powerful she is, and just how unpredictable she is. Of course, you still have a chance of getting past her if she happens to be in a particularly good mood. The thing about Saturnine is that she isn't outright evil. She's more of an all-powerful character who becomes a powerful villain simply because she wants to have fun, or because she wants something that others refuse to grant her. She can be both a powerful ally and a powerful enemy, but you definitely do not want her as an enemy. Trust me. Saturnine is a deadly magic user who comes armed with the magic of Otherworld, and as the Omniversal Guardian and Magistrix is basically god level when it comes to the mischief that she is capable of.
Number 10. Amanda Waller. She doesn't even have superpowers, but she is a power all on her own. Nicknamed the Wall, She is a government official who will do anything in the name of national security. I'm talking breaking the rules, killing people, even killing innocent people. She is the commander of Task Force X, aka Suicide Squad, a supervillain team that performs special operations under her command. She has a brilliant tactical mind and is ruthless and disciplined, bending supervillains to her will to get her work done, but she's not afraid to get her hands dirty. She once even uncovered Batman's secret identity. She might not be the deadliest DC villain by a pretty wide margin, but there are a whole host of DC villains that would say she's plenty deadly. It's this ability to get superpowered villains to do her dirty work that earns her this spot on our list. Number 9, Catwoman. Coming straight from the heart of Gotham City, Selina Kyle has had a varied origin, but she always ends up becoming Catwoman. In more recent years, she shows up more as a helper to Batman than as an enemy, but she is one of Batman's original villains, and for good reason. She is in peak physical condition and a nimble acrobat as well as master thief, sometimes even using literal cats to help her in her schemes. She might not have super strength or energy manipulation, but she is still a deadly foe, a skilled martial artist, stealth expert, and has considerable skill with weapons, including firearms and swords. Number 8, Cheetah. A much more intimidating cat, Cheetah has had a bit of a legacy, and there are a few different versions of the character. The most recent iteration of Cheetah is Barbara Minerva, who just recently appeared in DC's Wonder Woman 1984. A skilled archaeologist and linguist, she has a keen interest in the lost culture of the Amazons, and she actually helped Wonder Woman learn English when she first came to the United States. Dr. Minerva has made a pact with a god, transforming her into the cheetah with superhuman speed and all the deadly attributes of a feline. She battles with the inner turmoil of resisting her animalistic rage and predatory fury, and was once friends with Wonder Woman, at least in her human form. She was once busted out of jail by the crime syndicate and recruited onto their team. After a while, she led her own team known as the Menagerie, who terrorized New York from their hideout in Central Park. Number 7, Punchline. Also called Alexis K, she is the Joker's new right-hand woman, as Harley has a lot going on right now and the two aren't really on speaking terms. She was a student at Snyder College and encountered the Joker while on a field trip to a TV studio. Joker hijacked the studio and Alexis was forced at gunpoint to act as the newsreader, delivering Joker's message to the citizens of Gotham. After this encounter, she became obsessed, starting a podcast about the Joker and poisoning the people around her to try and get his attention. She eventually kills her college dean, proving herself to the Joker, who taught her how to create a modified form of his Joker venom. Link in the script there. She goes on to help Joker in his war against Batman, eventually having an epic showdown against Harley Quinn and Batman. She wields a couple of daggers and holds her own well against Catwoman and Harley. Number 6, Silver Banshee. First appearing in Action Comics number 595, Silver Banshee is a villain with sonic powers who frequently goes up against Superman. She was once insanely powerful, but has sort of been dumbed down a bit over the years. It's just how it goes with these supervillains sometimes. But in her youth, she was dragged into the Netherworld during a supernatural conflict as family stuff, and granted superpowers by a creature called the Crone. She is initially controlled by the powers like a curse, but later overcomes it with the help of Supergirl. They become fast friends and get to know each other pretty well. The two later hang out in a bar together, and it's totally lit. They're having a great time until her dad, Black Banshee, shows up. Luckily, the two of them are able to defeat Black Banshee together. Silver Banshee is known for her ability to learn language instantly, and more importantly, this crazy power to just like make people die by saying their name. It's sort of like the Black Canary's canary cry, except the Banshee version, and it instantly kills you.
Number 5, Aegis. Aegis is one of the Proemil gods who are known for being the oldest in the cosmos. They are believed to have come into existence right after the first Big Bang and were possibly the first entities that existed after that. Although, to be honest with you, with gods and goddesses, it seems like a lot of groups claim to be the oldest or the first. Aegis was one member of the Proemil pantheon to become corrupted, seeking new purpose after she was no longer needed. Attempting to rise up with her fellow rebellious gods, she ended up imprisoned along with her peers by Galactus, and she remained there for many years, although she would eventually escape and would later perish. Her power was said to rival that of Galactus and his heralds combined. That's pretty powerful. Number 4, Phoenix. One of the most powerful entities in the cosmos is the Phoenix Force. While the Phoenix doesn't always take a female host, I would say that many of the Force's hosts have been female, especially if we're focusing on the more notable ones. Currently in the comics, the Phoenix Force is bonded to Echo, aka hero Maya Lopez, but its most well-known host is probably that of Marvel Girl, aka classic X-Men teammate Jean Grey. You might not think of Phoenix as a god either, but the entity has been worshipped both by some on planet Earth in the past and by the Shi'ar at one point. Number 3. Celestial Madonna. Celestials are known for being all-powerful and almost impossible to defeat or fight against. We got our first taste of just how ginormous and seemingly unstoppable they can be in Eternals when the team of heroes decided to stand together to prevent the Celestials from destroying Earth, which they had decided to defend as their home. Most Celestials tend to skew male or simply could be considered to be without gender, but Celestial Madonna is unique as she is one of the few featured Celestials to actually have a seemingly female form. Celestial Madonna has only appeared in a few issues, but she is a Celestial, so we can imagine that she must be one of the most powerful, probably female, gods or goddesses around in the Marvel Universe. Cause Celestials. Number 2. Gaia. Gaia is literally known as Mother Earth in the Marvel Universe. She made her first appearance back in the 1970s in the 1974 series of Doctor Strange, in issue number 6. Back then she was introduced as Mother Nature, but would later become known as Gaia. Gaia is believed to be one of the oldest goddesses on the planet Earth and is related to the god of chaos, Chthon, who is also known for his ties to Avenger Scarlet Witch in the comics. Gaia belongs to the family of elder gods, and like many on this list, is going to be kinda hard to rank because she's pretty much maxed in almost all stats, considering that she is an extremely ancient being and entity. Basically, I feel like with this list, it's really hard to put them in any order because you're like, I mean, they're all pretty powerful. So yeah, you can let me know if you have a different order for the ones that I have here based on what you've read in the comics about them. Number 1. Death. Death is an entity we are familiar with in a few different forms, but for this point I'm going to be focusing on the version that Thanos is typically seen pining after, which is honestly typically the version we associate with Death when we're talking about her in the Marvel Universe. Sometimes referred to as Mistress Death, she made her first appearance in Marvel Mystery Comics issue number 21 back in the 1940s. So not only is she old and ancient in the world of the Marvel Universe, but also within Marvel Comics history as well.
Alternate realities give comic book writers the ability to do anything they want with their characters, including gender swapping, and it's always an interesting time when it happens. Take Captain Carter for example. If you've seen the Marvel Studios What If show or the Multiverse of Madness movie, you know alternate versions of Peggy Carter get the super soldier serum in place of Steve Rogers. Fans love this idea, even if it's strange for a British agent to become Captain America. There are a few different versions of Captain Carter to choose from, but they all generally share the same abilities. There was a version of the character appearing in Exiles number 3 in 2018 who had a great costume. The one in the Disney Plus show joined the Guardians of the Multiverse, so she was clearly an exceptional version of the character. She has shown up in the cinematic universe sporting a jetpack and was able to give the Scarlet Witch a surprising run for her money, while other more powerful characters were felled pretty much instantly. She can be a bit more hot-headed than her Steve Rogers counterpart, but she has the power of fan love, and if you know anything about what that power can do, you know that Peggy Carter as Captain America is powerful. Also, definitely check out her series if you get the chance. That takes place on Earth 76. But from one alternate Captain America to another, on Earth 15061, Danielle Cage, the daughter of both Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, would eventually become the Captain America of her time. But this girl has much more going for her than Peggy does. Even though we all love you, Peggy, I'm sorry. Because let's be honest and think about this for a second. Thanks to her parentage, Danielle Cage has the subsonic flight and superhuman longevity of her mother, with the bulletproof skin of her father, plus the superhuman strength, durability, stamina, speed, and healing factor of both of them. Yeah, Danielle Cage doesn't just use the shield of Captain America, she is the shield, as she likes to say. She is an awesome Captain America. She arguably does not even need her shield, which is a controllable drone replica of the original one. Unfortunately, we don't really get to see much of this version of Danielle Cage, but we know Danielle is a force to be reckoned with, and as such, she is a Captain America who deserves to be on this list. Moving on though, Spider-Gwen, or Ghost Spider, is the Gwen Stacy from the alternate reality of Earth 65. In this reality, it is Gwen Stacy, not Peter Parker, who gets bitten by a genetically engineered super spider. This bite granted her superhuman strength, speed, toughened flesh, and pretty much all the spider-based powers that the regular Spider-Man would possess. But after she is depowered by Cindy Moon, Ghost Spider bonded with the Venom symbiote, becoming Gwenom, which after she learned how to control it gave her all the regular symbiote powers, plus obviously some even more awesome Venom powers. She is another fan favorite alternate spider hero, and as such has featured in tons of stories. But if you're looking for something to read where Ghost Spider is featured, I suggest Edge of Spider-Verse, where she first appeared, and her own self-titled comic series Spider-Gwen Volume 1 from 2015. Next up is Wanda Wilson. Wanda Wilson is the Deadpool of Earth 3010, but since she is one of a very few female Deadpools, she naturally is titled Ladypool. Now Ladypool joined the side of a group of rebels fighting against loyalists in the United States in her own universe, that were led by Ladypool's nemesis, General America. Now according to Wanda, the fight started when fascists in the federal government started to impose their will on the people. As a result, a schism in Congress occurred, generals took sides, and states declared independence, which led to the current predicament. I never thought this video would get political. Eventually, she is assisted by 616 Deadpool, and she ends up becoming a main part of the good Deadpool Corps, and eventually she becomes the leader of the group, sacrificing herself and the Corps ship in a fight against the evil Deadpool Corps and Galactus Pool. But stepping back into the Earth 616 reality for a sec, and looking at the time that Peter Quill stepped away from his role of Star-Lord to become Emperor of the Spartax Empire, the empire of his father and the reason for him being near immortal and superhuman and all that jazz. When he did that, Kitty Pryde, who if you don't know had a bit of a thing with Peter at the time and was hanging with the Guardians of the Galaxy, took over the role of Star-Lord in his place. Her mutant powers and her insane level of capability obviously put her a cut above a half Spartax, and instantly made her one of the most powerful versions of Star-Lord ever. That's not to mention her intelligence and skill as an engineer, plus her mutant buddies also helped her to become uniquely gifted. Kitty Pryde is a pretty powerful mutant in Marvel Comics, but while with the Guardians of the Galaxy, she even became cosmically powerful thanks to the Black Vortex. Kitty Pryde is an awesome character who has honestly become scary capable with the Fall of X storyline. I really hope we get to see her in the MCU soon, and who knows, maybe they will touch on this little relationship too, maybe, I don't know. Now thankfully, Jane Foster as Thor has happened in the true 616 continuity, and it was really awesome. But for this point, we're gonna talk about What If number 10, and it's quite a bit different. In this timeline, it is Jane Foster who picks up the hammer of Mjolnir for the first time, not Donald Blake. In this story, Jane accompanies Dr. Blake on his trip to Norway, and when he drops his cane into a ravine, like he normally does, she goes down there to get it for him instead. Striking the stick just like Donald Blake did, she becomes Thordis. Wielding the power of Thor, Thordis fights off the Saturn rock people, and then turns the cane that she seems to have stolen from Donald Blake into a hairbrush to better fit in with her feminine alter ego, because I guess men don't use hairbrushes. She has pretty much the same adventures as Thor, but crucially, she is rejected by Odin for not being a man. This tracks all the way until the events of Ragnarok, when Odin decides to give the hammer back to Donald Blake because he just can't accept Jane as Thor. But then, as thanks for her time as the hero, Odin turns Jane into a different god and then marries her. Odin has always been kind of weird like that, so we're not surprised, but still a little strange.
Number 5. Hecate. One of the most powerful women in the DC universe is Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft. While she belongs to the Greek pantheon, in truth, Hecate is a goddess who is much more powerful and older than any group of gods around. We actually learned during the Witching Hour event that she, in fact, was asked to join the Greek pantheon and actually chose to accept that offer. She represents the power of magic, and in many ways the magic of the world, and possibly of the universe, is tied to her. Although she can be killed, killed, it takes a lot of power to defeat Hecate, and even after her seeming demise, as the other kind pretty much like tore her apart, her power lived on in Circe, who had plotted for a way to basically take all of Hecate's power for herself, as she was one of the 5 witch-marked. And after being the only one remaining, she basically became the sole possessor of Hecate's power. Number 4. Naomi. Naomi is probably one of the most powerful of the newer heroes that we've seen in the DC universe. Her powers are on the level of heavy hitters such as Superman. In fact, while transformed into her superhero mode, Naomi's power set is pretty similar, except for one very important and unique element of her powers. Unlike Superman, whose weakness is magic, Naomi actually bolsters and boosts magic around her. Her powers allow her to generate energy, which she can use in a few different ways. In combat, using it to blast opponents, or to give her a physical boost. Alternatively, she can use that same energy to boost magic and magical beings around her, which is pretty neat. However, as Naomi is still young, despite her potential, she still has some learning to do when it comes to her power set and how to best utilize and control it, which is the only reason why she ranks so low. I feel like Naomi with time could be somewhere right near the top of this list. She's pretty nuts. I love it. Number 3. Circe. While Hecate and Hera are both goddesses, at one point Circe is even more powerful than both of them after she takes within herself all of Hecate's power, which allows her to tap into the source of magic. Even without being able to tap into the source of magic though, Circe is known for being a fearsome and powerful witch who can easily defeat many of those who would stand against her. Circe can shapeshift, teleport, possess others, manipulate time, and is considered to be immortal. Despite her youthful appearance, Circe is actually more than 1,000 years old. Number 2. Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman, despite having to face Circe and sometimes seemingly being slightly bested by her, always ends up coming out on top in the end. At least in main continuity, and at least usually. And so for that reason, I think it makes sense that she takes one of our top spots, especially above one of her most iconic and most powerful foes. Wonder Woman in recent years has also ascended to a temporary cosmic level of godhood, on top of already being a demigoddess as the daughter of Zeus and Hippolyta in prime continuity anyways. As a result of her origin, Wonder Woman has divine superhuman abilities, making her super fast, strong, dexterous, and durable, on top of all the other awesome stuff that she can do, like lead an army as a master tactician and communicate with animals. Wonder Woman, she can do it all. What can't she do? Number 1. Raven. Raven is one of the most powerful women in the DC universe. In fact, she is so powerful that she actually has to rein in her power in order to keep the rest of the world safe. That is why she often seems so detached. It's because her powers directly link up to her emotional responses. To get too swept up in emotion would mean a loss of control over her powers, which could potentially result in a darker side taking hold of her. We've seen what happens when this takes place, and it gives us one of Raven's most powerful forms. Although when she manages to evolve from darkness back to light, she can actually become even more powerful. As we see in the New Earth continuity, after she turns evil, attacks Starfire and Nightwing's wedding, and then later on is killed, but in dying actually becomes free of her evil demonic father Trigon's influence. With him defeated, she is free to rise again, purified of his corruption. And she gets a cool white cape, so that's bonus, you know? Who doesn't want a cool white cape? I love capes. I should be wearing a cape right now. Number 10. Enchantress. Enchantress is considered to be one of the greatest magic users in Asgard. She is a villainous woman who often plots against Thor Odinson, although sometimes plots against him because she maybe has a huge crush on him. In fact, there are multiple realities where Amora and Thor actually end up together, even having children in some realities, and in many of these alternate worlds, the villain and hero actually make a pretty good pairing. Enchantress is not just a gifted and skilled magic user who can use her powers to do all sorts of things, but she is also a fairly formidable physical opponent as well, as she is also of Asgard. Number 9. Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch is obviously one of my all-time favorite heroes and characters in the Marvel Universe. I love Wanda. Wanda Maximoff in the comics was originally a villain belonging to the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but would later end up joining the Avengers. And she was never really too happy about being part of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Both her and her brother Quicksilver mainly seemed to stay because they felt they owed Magneto, the master of magnetism and leader of the group, their lives. He had seemingly saved them both, and so they were basically indebted to him. Eventually, they would learn that Magneto was also their father, but then, later on, Wanda would learn that although Quicksilver was indeed her brother, Magneto was actually not their father at all. It had apparently all been a trick of the High Evolutionary's doing. Still, many of Wanda's most astounding feats are tied to this fake family, with her even at one point warping reality and giving her father the perfect family life, allowing him to become the ruler of a mutant civilization during House of M. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more lists about all the powerful ladies over at Marvel Comics, be sure to head on over to Facebook and click that like and click that follow. We're also gonna have lots of cool bonus content coming your way soon, and I'm very excited about it. Number 8. Hela. Hela is, as she sounds, the ruler of Hell. As Guardian Hell anyways. She is implied to be the daughter of Loki in the comics, though in the MCU her origins were changed to make her the firstborn secret daughter of Odin, who was imprisoned for being such a big lover of death and war after her dad decided it was basically time to make peace with the other realms instead. It's also believed that Hela is actually part giantess as well, which means that she is generally depicted as being quite tall and imposing, even without her awesome headpiece, or without her magical abilities. She's also an interesting villain of the Marvel Universe, as she sometimes works against Thor, and at other times actually plays the role of ally and partner to him. Hela more recently in the comics was teaming up with Thanos, whom she was trying to win the favor of, and the two of them were also kind of like an item in the comics. Number 7. She-Hulk. She-Hulk is one of the strongest there is in the Marvel Universe. She is Jennifer Walters, cousin to Bruce Banner, who found herself able to transform into a jade giantess following an emergency blood transfusion that she received from her cousin. Jennifer specialized in criminal law and ended up being targeted as a result, shot in her driveway. Bruce managed to rig up a blood transfusion by breaking into a doctor's office. Jennifer now specializes as well in superhuman cases, often representing various heroes from the superhuman community. While she is powerful just even as a lawyer, she is also exceptionally strong as a hero in her own right. At one point she was blasted with so much gamma radiation that she was even considered to be potentially stronger than her cousin for a time. While Jen has turned grey in the past and has also become a massive green behemoth, she is now back in a more classic form, resembling her early appearances when it comes to her look as She-Hulk. Number 6. Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is Carol Danvers. Originally, Carol Danvers worked as Chief of State for NASA. It was there that she would meet the Kree-born hero Captain Mar-Vell, who was posing as a human scientist. When she ended up being saved by Mar-Vell when the Psyche Magnetron exploded, their DNA was combined, due to Carol wishing to be like him, and she in her own right became a hero. Although we'd later learn that Carol herself was also part Kree, as her mother was actually Marielle, a Kree woman. In fact, Carol even has a Kree half-sister, L'Oreal. Carol would become Miss Marvel, a hero with super strength, durability, the ability to fly, capable of interstellar travel, and who had energy powers similar to Mar-Vell. Eventually she would take up the name of Captain Marvel in honor of her deceased mentor, the hero Mar-Vell. Number 5. Titania. Titania is Mary McFerrin, a girl who was known for her small stature and often mocked for it when she was young, and aspired to become something greater than what she felt she was born into. After being offered powers by supervillain Dr. Doom, she was transformed into the powerhouse known as Titania. Titania has been shown to be skilled and strong enough to defeat a whole wheelhouse of powerful superheroes, including Luke Cage and Iron Fist, as well as The Thing and Mr. Fantastic. She's also kicked the butt of Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, is faster than a speeding bullet and Mjolnir itself, and can take a direct hit from the mythical hammer and be left completely unfazed by it. Now, some of this went on while her powers were boosted admittedly, but either way, Titania is not a villain you'd want to face in a fistfight. I would not want to face her in a fistfight because my face would get punched into the next, into the nega zone. I'd be gone. You'd have no face left. Yikes. Number 4. Madam Hydra. Madam Hydra has close ties to quite a few superheroes and other famous villains, and we also for a time have known her under the codename Viper, which is also very important indeed given her obsession with snake venom in addition to other toxins and poisons. Madam Hydra's legal name is Ophelia Sarkinson, and like her codename implies, she is often known for being a ruler of Hydra and as a member of their High Council. She has close ties to Jessica Drew's Spider-Woman, who she has fought against and also sought to re-recruit, Wolverine, whom she was married to, and obviously Captain America, because Hydra. So yeah. As I said, Madam Hydra is fond of poisons, toxins, and venoms, and as such generally employs them for use as weapons through projectiles and even her lipstick. She also possesses near toxin immunity, which she obtained through frequent and carefully measured exposure. I wish that was true. What if you had actually, isn't that kind of how allergies work? Can't you be exposed to them in small amounts and then you can overcome your allergy? I don't know if that's true, but that might be true. It might be science. Don't try that. if you're allergic to something and like you die. Don't do it though, because I think then it doesn't work. Number 3. Moonstone. Like many of the deadliest and most villainous women in Marvel, Moonstone is really just a woman looking to put herself before others. She's always out to get what she needs first, which generally makes her a villain. But there have been times when Karla Sofen has both posed as a hero and also truly tried to be a hero. She was part of Baron Zemo's Thunderbolts, built out of his Masters of Evil team, and rebranded and disguised as superheroes, following the apparent destruction of most of Earth's heroes by Onslaught. Following this, the Thunderbolts did attempt to truly become heroes under the leadership of Hawkeye, whom Karla started a relationship with. Moonstone was also the Miss Marvel equivalent to Norman Osborn's Dark Avengers team, acting far more villainously once more. She can manipulate gravity, making her super powerful and allowing her to basically augment much of her own abilities, including durability, strength, and speed. She can even turn herself invisible using her gravity manipulation, and she can teleport. Number 2. Mystique. One of the deadliest women out there when it comes to female villains has got to be my girl, Mystique. The best thing about Mystique too is she's really a relatable villain because a lot of times she's kind of just looking out for number 1, herself. Wow, did I just say she's relatable and then I talked about how selfish she was? I think people are all selfish to an extent, which is true. I think we are all selfish at times. And sometimes Mystique also just behaves evilly to look out for those she legitimately cares for, like her now dead wife Destiny and their adopted daughter Rogue, whether or not Rogue actually wants her help or protection. And so that is definitely relatable, I think. Looking out for other people, even sometimes when people are like, I don't want your help, and you're like, well, I'm still gonna help you because I love you. Her shape-shifting powers means that she can pose as pretty much anyone, and her skills in disguise and impersonation help to smooth over these appearances, allowing her to even move and act like those whom she adopts the identity of. Not only that, but Mystique is a skillful fighter and manipulator, so she's not someone you want to get on the bad side of. Trust me, other people have, and they have been backstabbed so many times, their back is basically like a knife block at this point. Yikes. Number 1. Hela. Hela is one of the most deadly villains when she wants to be. Like Mystique, Hela isn't always a villain. She's not inherently evil, but is capable of great evil if it is something that is needed for her to get what she needs or wants. As the ruler of Hell, she is immensely powerful when it comes to her magic and her physical strength as well. She's also a necromancer, being ruler of Hell, though she isn't someone who enjoys torturing the souls over which she rules or manipulating them into doing her bidding, unless, once again, it serves some greater purpose for her. Still, Hela is not someone you want to get on the bad side of, and more recently as we've seen her ally herself with Thanos, we've seen an even more malevolent side of her. So many deadly women and women who even rule over the dead. Number 10. Black Cat. Black Cat is only rounding out the bottom of this list because she is so ever changing when it comes to her alignment and so much more complicated of a character to be considered either a hero or a villain, really. But she definitely is a very capable and dangerous criminal, when she needs to be, or when she wants to be, which is why she still makes the cut. When it comes to going up against Black Cat, odds are good you probably don't want to. In fact, she might not even be someone you want as an ally, considering that Black Cat could in fact be ready to double cross you at a moment's notice. Felicia Hardy is definitely one of the most dangerous thieves around when it comes to Marvel Comics, making her one of the publisher's most deadly, sometimes villain. Number 9. Bloodlust. Bloodlust was one of the villainesses that ended up joining the Femme Fatales. The Femme Fatales were an all-female supervillain group who were for a time working alongside Superia's Femizons in a plot to take over the world. She would end up being a mutant who lost her powers on M-Day, but when she did have them, they were very similar to Wolverine and X-23's. Bloodlust, whose real name is Beata Dubiel, actually predates X-23 in terms of her first appearance. Pretty cool facts. She first appeared in the comics in Marvel Comics Presents in 1990. After she lost her powers though, she became a skilled assassin who fought with small, stiletto-like blades. Powered, Bloodlust was believed to be as strong and deadly as Wolverine. Depowered, she was still a skilled enough fighter to give Domino a run for her money. Before we move on to our next number, just a quick reminder to give this video a thumbs up if you are enjoying it. It really does help us out. Number 8. Emma Frost. Emma Frost is only ranking so low on the list because she is a reformed villain now in the comics, but that doesn't mean that she is any less deadly now that she is a hero. As a villain, she managed to swap bodies with Storm and infiltrate the X-Men. As a mutant and a person, Emma is so skilled and so badass that she even manages to use other mutant skills better than even they can, like when she swapped bodies with Iceman and showed him up. Beyond that though, even just as a woman, not even considering her especially strong diamond form or masterful telepathic powers, Emma is pretty remarkable and dangerous. She's just a powerhouse who knows how to bargain when it comes to business dealings and relishes the power she wields as the White Queen of the Hellfire Trading Company, and formerly the Hellfire Club, because that's what the trading company used to be. But anyways, now the Hellfire Club is a bunch of kids that are villains, so modern time comics. Number 7. Mind Blast. We are going back to the femme fatales for a little bit here. This member of the team was actually first introduced in the 90s in Amazing Spider-Man issue 340. She is not only a mutant but also a cyborg. Her mutant powers grant telekinetic abilities which she can use to fly and manipulate other objects. In addition, she also possesses the power of telepathy via her cybernetic enhancements, which grant her telepathic shielding and allow her to create quite convincing psychic illusions. Convincing enough to lure some of the X-Men, including Psylocke, into a trap. Which in my mind, if you're tricking Psylocke with like telepathic illusions, you're pretty good. Number 6. Elektra. Elektra is one of the most skilled and dangerous women out there, both when she's acting as a villain and when she's acting even as a hero. Like Emma, she also ranks a little bit lower due to the fact that she is currently attempting to prove she can be good and operating under the codename Daredevil. So not super villainous right now. However, part of the appeal with Elektra is while an ally to Daredevil, she has never been completely good and in general is considered as more being a villain than a hero. Initially, she didn't possess any powers but was an incredibly skilled fighter, assassin, and ninja. Since being resurrected by the Hand, however, she does have some powers. She can low-key possess other people's minds, using this to track down her targets. It's also been revealed that she has other mental and telepathic abilities and fighting techniques. Gotta love those mental fighting techniques. Mental screams. Ah! This is why I should never get any kind of sonic scream, because I would just sound ridiculous. Not my mutant power. Okay.
Number 5. Blackfire. Blackfire is the older sister of Starfire from the Teen Titans. She often appears as an adversary of the Titans and is extremely powerful, outmatching the already astounding Starfire in battle. She can absorb ultraviolet radiation and transform it into deadly bolts she calls black bolts, and can even change radiation into energy, giving her superhuman strength and endurance. She is especially powerful, capable of interstellar travel and flight in space. It's kind of the same thing. She appears in Red Hood and the Outlaws number 11, where she fights alongside her sister and takes down the Blight after they capture Roy Harper. It's an epic team up and a great reunion for the two sisters. Number 4. Mary, Queen of Blood. Mary Seward is the Queen of Blood, appearing in House of Mystery number 290 in 1981. She once had a lover named Andrew Bennett, a decorated nobleman who was bitten and turned into a vampire. Mary begged Andrew to bite her as well, hoping that the two could spend eternity together. However, Andrew resists the vampiric bloodlust while Mary embraces it and becomes a ruthless killer. She forms a cult called the Blood Red Moon, and Andrew hunts her across the centuries trying to stop her. She once turned an entire temple of monks into vampires, but they rather impressively resist the bloodlust through mindfulness and meditation. She has a crazy host of powerful abilities, including psychokinesis, transformation, regeneration, superhuman strength, not to mention immortality. As long as she has a steady supply of blood, she is extremely powerful, and I'm sure it's easy for her to get more. Number 3. Killer Frost. Killer Frost is just a classic deadly female villain, an icy-hearted femme fatale who will literally suck the life out of you in a heartless attack. There have been multiple iterations of Frost, always iconic and always super powerful, having once even sold her soul to become more powerful. She has been kidnapped and forced to work on the Suicide Squad, and once even worked alongside Batman. Caitlin Snow is the newest Frost, a scientist who is tricked by Hive and made to die in a staged accident, but she instead survives and gains her ice-based powers. She is not made of ice, but instead generates organic ice-like cells that make up her entire genetic makeup. She is a heat vampire, absorbing the body heat of others to kill them. Number 2. Enchantress. Also known as June Moon, Enchantress gained her powers from an immensely powerful being and almost immediately winds up battling against Supergirl. She later joins the Suicide Squad as Amanda Waller agrees to help her control her evil Enchantress side. She can manipulate energy, heal, and even teleport. She once took on Wonder Woman, Cyborg, and Superman all at once, and has defeated other villains as well. Her powers have gotten kind of erratic and unpredictable since June Moon and Enchantress became separated from one another, but she has still demonstrated some impressive raw power in her villainous career. She is capable of flight, necromancy, and possession, elemental control, and even resurrection, but only if the corpse is fresh. If it's not though, she can always use the necromancy. Number 1. Evil Supergirl. Lex Luthor had an evil scheme that basically caused all of this. He created a black kryptonite energy ray, which he used on Supergirl, hoping to corrupt her. Instead though, the ray generated a second dark version of Supergirl. This dark version had similar memories and experiences, but believed that she was sent to Earth to kill Superman. And as you can imagine, she's crazy powerful. She goes on a rampage using her Kryptonian powers, causing tons of damage, and even taking down Black Canary and the Flash before finally facing off in an epic battle with Superman and Wonder Woman. Evil Supergirl is likely one of the most powerful villains ever, and it's actually Wonder Woman that brings her down in the end, catching both versions of Supergirl in her lasso and merging them together back into one.
Number 10. Stained Glass Scarlet. Stained Glass Scarlet is a young god who came into existence following her own death. That is, following the death of her mortal self, Scarlet Facinera. Scarlet had a tragic and rough life, filled with mistreatment by the men who she would have likely expected to trust the most. After her death in the same church where both her son and her husband also lost their lives, her story spread, gaining power. This power allowed Scarlet to return as a young goddess, who is connected to Moon Knight, seemingly immortal and possesses the ability to control glass. Number 9. Storm. While Storm might not be a god in the traditional sense, she was worshipped as a weather goddess for quite a while because of her abilities. And considering how powerful she is, and how much we all love her, I think we would all agree that she has more than earned her goddess status. When it comes to Storm's power levels, we have seen them spike to the point that the whole world was affected by her weather manipulation abilities. At the same time that this happened, as a reaction to her then claustrophobia, her power was also likened to that of the Phoenix, partially because it was so awesome and partially because it was so volatile. Over the years, Storm has gained more and more control over her powers and also healed from the trauma that caused her claustrophobia, meaning that she is pretty much in full control now. And she proved more recently in the comics during her battle against Tarn the Uncaring that she also doesn't need her mutant powers to be a deadly badass. Also, I feel like she's definitely in control of the ability to just manipulate weather on a planetary level, because we've seen her do that with Mars. At least I'm pretty sure she's done that on Mars. So yeah, there's also that. And friends, if you are loving this list and you would love to see some more lists where we get to pump up some of the most powerful ladies in Marvel Comics or DC Comics or Indie Comics or all of the above, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8. Hera. Hera is a member of the Pantheon of Olympus. She is a Greek goddess who traditionally is associated in Greek mythology and belief with motherhood, family, childbirth, and marriage. In Marvel, she is likewise the wife of Zeus, but more recently in the comics, her and the other Olympians took a turn to become powerful villains. They were killed by the vengeful goddess Nyx and later returned as tyrannical and greedy gods who raised planets with a vengeance. In the end, they were defeated by the Guardians of the Galaxy, lost as Star-Lord was lost on the other side of reality. Eventually though, Star-Lord learned the Dark Olympians had escaped due to him using his elemental gun, where their power had been trapped and stored. They returned with him back to Earth and were more permanently defeated, at least so it seems, when they were seemingly killed by the Guardians, Hera included. She was squashed in the end by Groot. R.I.P. Hera. Number 7. Hela. Hela is the ruler of the Norse and Asgardian underworld. While in the MCU we know her as Loki and Thor's mysterious sister who was locked away in punishment for her continuous pursuit of war against Odin's wishes after he ultimately decided to kinda usher in an era of peace. In the comics main continuity of Earth 616, she is not Thor's sister, but instead, she's his niece. That's right, the Hela of Earth 616 is believed to be one of Loki's children, his daughter. She ended up becoming the ruler of the underworld as was decreed by Odin. Though just because she isn't a shunned sister who seeks revenge on Asgard doesn't mean that she isn't a villain, and doesn't mean that she doesn't sometimes try to seek revenge on Asgard. Even on Earth 616, Hela is known for her generally villainous intentions, and there was even a prophecy when she was born warning that she would be a great danger to the other gods and goddesses of Asgard. Number 6. Enchantress. Amora the Enchantress is one of the most powerful magic users in the Marvel Universe, and also happens to be a goddess within the realm of Asgard. She has been known by many names other than Amora, including Idun and Idunna, but what she has symbolized has always remained the same. Enchantress is meant to be the symbol of the perfect female form, known for her beauty and charm, which allows her to bend others, especially men, to her will. It is because of her beauty that Enchantress was deemed the only one to pick the golden apples from Yggdrasil. Although her backstory and origin are steeped in lore and Norse mythology, in the comics most people know her mainly as a villainess, who often goes up against the hero Thor, among others.
Next up is Earth 999, a world where basically every single person has powers, things have gone apocalyptic, and where the daughter of Peter Parker, May Parker, is Venom. While her retired and cynical pops ain't too thrilled about that, she does actually have complete control over her symbiote thanks to her advanced and honed spider sense. She was eventually under the control of this kid who went by the name of the Red Skull, and thanks to her father and other Earth X classic heroes, she was saved, with Venom and her father, Spider-Man, going on to join the superpowered police force and fight crime and supervillain threats together. She eventually, after the passing of Death, was recruited by Kang the Conqueror as part of a multiversal team to fight the Apocalypse Twins. In addition to her proportional spider powers, plus the enhanced spider sense, she gains all the usual symbiote powers plus a few extra, like what seems to be a rudimentary form of telepathy, and she kind of has a huge amount of potential to become even more powerful if Marvel decides to. She's definitely one of the cooler incarnations of Venom, as are most characters in the Earth X world. But moving on from that one, the Legion of Night comes from a world where Mr. Sinister corrupted the genomes of those who underwent the mutant resurrection protocols on Krakoa in the new Krakoan age. Because of that, Sinister's control over humanity and mutantdom became pretty much supreme. Now, one of his experiments was combining the genetics of different mutants to create powerful chimeras to serve him, and it made for some pretty crazy awesome comic book moments. A particularly special project was turning the genes of Nightcrawler into a band of teleporting assassins. But this Legion of Night, while having leadership in the form of Sinister's female clone, Mother Righteous, also had field leaders. But one of them was Mr. Sinister's favorite Nightcrawler chimera, Wagnerine. Mixing the DNA of both Nightcrawler and Wolverine, Wagnerine was funnily enough more of a mix of Laura Kinney, X-23, and Nightcrawler, and she made for an excellent assassin and leader for Mother Righteous once she had been freed from the control of Mr. Sinister. Wagnerine ended up beating the odds and procreating with the Cyclops Nightcrawler, aka Summer Night, to create a golden mutant teleporter who seemingly teleported to a random location immediately after her birth, causing Summer Night to lose control of himself and fall victim to the influence of Sinister once again. Eventually, it was revealed that Mother Righteous had actually taken the child, and when that was revealed to Wagnerine, she defected. Now fast forward 900 years later, and she was finally able to bring down Mother Righteous and go on to try and live a happy life with her baby. Moving on, in the alternate Earth M reality, the Silver Surfer finds Earth for Galactus to consume like he normally does, but he quickly decides to protect the planet from his master once he sees how many people live here, and he attacks Galactus instead. In return, Galactus quickly overpowers him, grows frustrated in the Surfer's resistance to him, and banishes him to Earth. Galactus decides that he wants to convince the Silver Surfer to return to him, so he is convinced to create a female being named Ardina from his technological matrix with the DNA of Surfer's old flame, Shalabal. Her role was to attract the Surfer and convince him that the people of Earth are not worth saving. However, they both fall in love with each other, and Ardina vows to be by the Surfer's side in his fight against Galactus. Seeing that his plan has failed, Galactus reabsorbs her back into the Galactus Matrix and erases her from existence, instead offering to spare Earth if the Surfer decides to come back to be his herald. Now, in the main 616 continuity, Ardina was created as basically a clone of Surfer himself, herself, using a ritually prepared dagger to do so. In both cases though, Ardina has access to the exact same energies as the Silver Surfer. She could use the power cosmic, and even though she was technically a newborn, she had the potential to be just as powerful as the Surfer himself. And last up today, it's Shuri the Black Panther. The sister of King T'Challa of Wakanda, Shuri has for a long time wanted to be the first female Black Panther. After her brother helped train her to be able to do just that, and following her brother becoming incapacitated thanks to the inheritor Morlun, she got that wish. And the best part is that it happened in the main 616 continuity. Shuri became Queen of Wakanda and the next Black Panther, and her brother even refused to fully take the title back at first upon his recovery. During her rule as Black Panther, she would constantly come into conflict with splinter groups of Wakandans and with Namor and his Kingdom of Atlantis, but it turns out that almost everything was influenced by Dr. Doom, because of course it was. Eventually, her brother would come back to help her out against Doom and take over again as king, giving Shuri the opportunity to train under other heroes like Wolverine, Spider-Man, Black Widow, and Khazar. After the Phoenix Five showed up, she helped heroes come to Wakanda for safety before it was attacked by the Phoenix-powered Namor, and then a bit later during the incursions, her and her brother would launch attacks on Atlantis, all while T'Challa and Namor were working together in the Illuminati. A fact that would lead her to oust her brother to take the throne and Black Panther title yet again. But then the multiverse went completely belly up and all that didn't matter anymore.
Number 10. Hawkgirl. Hawkgirl is a hero who is known for belonging to part of the elite superhero team, the Justice League. She is actually the reincarnation of Shra, who was punished for helping to save Qatar the Deathbringer, despite his misdeeds. As punishment, Shra could never permanently die, and instead would be reincarnated into a new life, keeping with her all the memories of her previous lives, which gives her a lot of experience to use and means that she is extremely wise when it comes to tactics, fighting, and even approaches to science and advancement. Qatar the Deathbringer was also cursed to be reincarnated and is known as Hawkgirl's partner, Hawkman, in his current incarnation. Hawkgirl also has wings, can fly, and I believe currently her wings are also infused with nth metal still? I think that's still a thing. Aside from that, Kendra Saunders is also super strong, durable, and has a reasonably potent healing factor. Always helpful to heal. Number 9. Dr. Light. No, not that Dr. Light, don't worry. We're talking about the second Dr. Light, the heroic Dr. Light, Kimio Hoshi. In the New Earth continuity, Dr. Light was not at all related to Arthur Light, the original Dr. Light, known for being a major villain. Instead, she was actually a hero who happened to get blasted with energy from the Vega Star when Monitor reached out to create a champion after sensing the anti-Monitor and kinda getting spooked by his destructive vibes. Monitor was like, I don't think so, gonna just shoot some star energy out and hopefully that hits someone who is gonna be a cool hero. Fingers crossed. Dr. Light is a scientist and astronomer turned into a hero who can tap into energy from the Vega Star, giving her almost unlimited power. She can use this energy to create illusions and energy constructs, blast her enemies, fly, and phase. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to show your love for us on another place, in another platform, head on over to Facebook, click that follow, click that like. It really does help us out here at the channel, so thank you. Number 8. Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy is one of the most powerful women around when it comes to villains in the DC universe. While she doesn't often act as a global threat, we learned in the Everyone Loves Ivy arc that if she wanted to, she could do that. Ivy in more recent years has flirted with a path of redemption, sometimes acting as a more morally conscious villain, and other times even acting as a hero or an anti-hero. In fact, even when she took over the world, she kind of had a pretty fair reason for why she should actually rule it. After all, things go a lot more smoothly and are a lot better overall for everyone, the planet especially included, when she is in charge. However, this also means that people don't really get to have free will, so that's not so great. Obviously. Which is why people were like, look, Ivy, you can't just control the world. People gotta mess it up with their free will. Free will, you know? Number 7. Hera. Hera isn't just a woman, she's also a goddess, one of the most powerful of the female goddesses of the Greek pantheon. Hera in Wonder Woman Historia of the Amazons, which tells the tale of how the Amazons came to be, is seen as the goddess who kinda like rules over all of the others. Like, not explicitly, but she definitely influences them a lot. She's the one that calls the shots. She is the one who typically commands them, and although she did not choose to aid them in creating the Amazons, she sneakily sent them some aid in her own way in the form of their to-be queen, the human woman Hippolyta, who would actually rise to become an Amazon. She is Zeus's wife, but despite her position as his partner, she's one of the few women in Greek mythology who would dare to trick him, spurn him, or even sometimes fight against him. Also, if you haven't read Wonder Woman Historia, The Amazons, you should go read it. It's really pretty, it's really great. I need to get like a tattoo somewhere from issue 1, I feel like, that is from that book because it's just so stunning. Number 6. Supergirl. Hera might be a goddess, and Supergirl, you know, doesn't have that title, but she kind of may as well have it. Supergirl is a Kryptonian known often for being Superman's cousin. In fact, originally Kara Zor-El was his older cousin who was sent after him in order to protect him. However, she kind of got stuck in like the Earth's orbit, and her arrival on Earth was delayed. Pre her arrival, during the time when she was still in stasis, barely aging, Superman arrived on Earth and basically grew up. By the time that Kara Zor-El did land, Kal-El had aged to be older than her. So she's older in terms of like her technical like birth date, if she had a Kryptonian like birth certificate or license, but younger in terms of her experience living and, you know, her physical appearance. I didn't talk about her powers at all, but you guys all know who Supergirl is. She is super strong. You know, Superman, he's really strong. Supergirl, also really strong. I more wanted to just talk about how she's younger, I guess, but also older. It's a weird fun thing. Number 5. Spectrum. Spectrum is probably one of the most powerful female heroes that we have over at Marvel Comics. She served as a lieutenant in the New Orleans Harbor Patrol, and while on the job came into contact with an experimental and criminal device that left her forever changed. The exposure left her with superpowers that allowed her to change form into basically any type of energy, which is pretty insane. Monica Rambeau would go on to join the Avengers and even for a short time act as the team's leader. Monica has had many different names over the years, including Captain Marvel. In fact, she took up the mantle of Captain Marvel before Carol did, but ended up surrendering it to the original Mar-Vell's son so that he could use it. And then later on, of course, Carol would end up getting it. We've also known her as Photon, but currently she goes by Spectrum. Honestly, I really like the name Spectrum. I feel like it makes sense, because it's like, you know, she's got all the energies, it's a spectrum, get it? I like it. Number 4. Storm. Storm is one of the most powerful mutants around when it comes to the world of the X-Men. She is considered an Omega level mutant, which means that of those with a similar power set, she is considered the most skilled, capable, and powerful. Storm's abilities allow her to control the weather, not just creating storms, but being a master of all different elements within the spectrum of weather. Beyond that though, Storm is also a powerful person. Aurora Monroe is an amazingly skilled and deadly fighter who you probably wouldn't even want to face even if she wasn't using her powers. Aside from that, Storm is also an inspirational and motivational leader. She recently served on Captain Kate Pryde's team of Marauders, mainly because she wanted to keep a close eye on her friend and once protege Kitty, but has now moved on to become the ruler and regent of planet Araco, formerly Mars, its own primarily mutant-inhabited planet, as she should be. Storm is definitely one of those people that was like born to be like a leader and a ruler. And fun fact, Storm is also a goddess as well, so basically she's got all the things. She can do it all. Number 3. Jean Grey. Jean Grey usually takes our top spot when it comes to our most powerful lists, but I think on a list like this, spot 3 isn't too bad. Typically her power gains respect amongst comic book fans because she is considered the host of the Phoenix Force. Although it should be noted that right now in the comics, Jean is not Phoenix. Maya Lopez, aka Echo, is. Jean Grey, however, is still one of the most iconic heroes to have been bonded with the Phoenix Force. She has both been a powerful force of good and a force of evil when merged with it, either being known as Phoenix or Dark Phoenix. Even without the Phoenix Force though, Jean is considered to be an Omega level mutant in regards to her telepathic skills, and an extremely capable and gifted telekinetic as well, possibly one of the most powerful psionic mutants on the planet Earth, and perhaps even within the universe or the multiverse. Number 2. Nemesis. Nemesis is a pretty cool and niche character who has only made a few appearances in the comics. She was said to have been the first being in all of existence. She made the first beings out of a piece of herself, but finding them kinda evil and pretty much displeased with them, she decided to destroy them. Choosing to end her existence due to her loneliness, Nemesis ceased to be, using her own self to create both reality and the Infinity Gems. She came back into being once more when the gems were brought together again. They merged along with Loki the Trickster God and Circe of the Eternals, who both had brought the final gems together, to recreate nemesis. Number 1. Lady Death. Lady Death is one of the most powerful forces in all of Marvel. I mean, what could be more powerful than that which comes for all of us? The inevitable death. Lady Death is the physical embodiment of death, and indeed she represents that area of the cycle of life. As Death, she basically rules over all living things, which in turn will die. Lady Death in the comics is known for being the love interest of Thanos, who apparently does a whole lot of killing just to try and turn her head, hoping to win her favor. But there are also others out there who idolize Death as well, such as Deadpool, who even at one point was considered so beloved by her that Thanos cursed him so that Wade could never die, thereby preventing him from ever getting to be with Death. Sad.